again. We are going to talk about the African literature. African literature has origins dating back thousands of years to ancient Egypt and hieroglyphs. These ancient Egyptian beginnings led to Arabic poetry, which spread during the Arab conquest of Egypt in the 17th century and through Western Africa in the 19th century. These African and Arabic cultures continued to blend with European culture and literature to form a unique literary form. Now, Africa experienced several hardships in its long history were a lasting impact on the themes of literature. One hardship, which led to many others, is that of, yes, colonization. It is when people leave their country and settle in another land, often which is already inhabited. The problem with colonization is when the incoming people exploit the indigenous people and the resources of inhabited land. That then led to slavery. Millions of African people were enslaved and brought to Western countries around the world from the 19th century. This spreading of African people, largely against their will, is called the African diaspora. Now, what is African literature? Any literature that is written by African about Africans in Africa and using the main vehicular characteristics of African languages, which is proper. In short, the author, the plot, the characteristics, the setting, and the style should all be related to Africa. In the plot, looking at the plot of African literature, one easily sees conflict. But the conflict is usually between man versus society, and sporadically you see man versus nature, but perhaps rarely would you see man versus self. In African literature, the conflict is usually exposed abruptly from the beginning, as is the case with Anthills of the Savannah by Chinua Achebe, unlike in Charles Dickens' Hard Times, where the conflict is seen only in media res. It is mindful to say that The Arrow of God by Chinua Achebe again deviates from this pattern and starts in media res. The plot of African literature could actually reveal different approaches in life between the Africans and the rest of the world. The African society is a confrontational society as exhibited in their daily speech, unlike the West, where there is a huge usage of euphemisms. For fear, of course, of hurting the other's sweeney feelings, there are very few euphemistic usages in African languages, except, of course, for sex, which is considered a taboo subject. Even in their daily usage of foreign languages like English, French, Spanish, or Portuguese, they do not use them. Not because they don't like it, but simply because they do not exist. This confrontation has at times transcended even the spiritual realm, with the confrontation of the priests and the priestesses of gods and goddesses, which culminates into fatalism as you take a look at even works like The Battle of Mustang in the year 1996 and The Egg of Life in the year 2003. The theme of conflict developed in the plots is not just between the white man and the African, Christianity, between animism, or perhaps traditionalisms versus modernisms, but even amongst African there is conflict. Ola Rotimi in Our Husband Is Getting Mad Again reenacts a scene in which his Kenyan wife, Lisa, injects feminism into their marriage to stage a vote of no confidence against Okonkwo as the only sage of the home and ultimately the state. For the setting, when considering the two elements of setting, you have the place and the time, those of African literature are quite different from the rest of the world. The settings in most African works take place always in villages, yes, like we see in The White Man of God, The African Child, Concubine, and The Old Man in the Meadow. Others, like The Swamp Dwellers, take place in swamps. Very few take place in the city, like Cry, The Beloved Country, because the city was always regarded as a cursed place that corrupts the innocent. In addition, they boasted and still boast more villages than cities. To be able to write a work that will encompass the majority of people, it is proper to fit the setting in the village with sporadic city scenes. Furthermore, most of their authors decry the individualistic lifestyle in the cities as evinced in foreign works, like A Tale of Two Cities. Yes, in 1959. Rip Van Winkle, 1819, The Legend of Sleepy Hollow, 1917, The Scarlet Letter, in the 1850, and many more. To the African, the cock that crows belongs to the household, but its crows belong to the community. In addition, the presence of priests and priestesses and shrines of gods and goddesses may help to expose the nature of the people. Yes, through this setting, you can decipher the type of religion and the belief system of the people in general. The second element of setting is time. This paints quite a controversial picture and again helps to create a timeline for African history. Many, especially Westerners, have argued that Africans have no notion of time. They don't have a clock. They just use their shadows in the sun. This author will treat it in full later on in this screen. Now for the characters, the third element of literature, characterization, is even more intriguing in African literature. They were defined as a person in a work of art. With time, that definition seems lacking because of the evolution in technology. Excuse me. Most African characters have the same potentials as those in myth and folktales. They are normal human beings, raised almost to godlike status and then fall as though suffering from the anger of the god. Again, this is due to the conflict that ensues permanently in African literature. When you look at characters like Okonkwo and Kamaralai, nonetheless, there is still a similarity with world literatures in society, though may not have the same people. It has the same ills in different forms, just as we have tragic heroes in Western literature. We do have the same in African literature. A man like Okonkwo, in our first video in Things Fall Apart, 1961, is a typical tragic hero whose flaw is excessive manliness, creates a vaulting ambition that overlips its bounds into accidentally shooting a man. The same flaw awaits Ezekiel in The Hour of God in 1964, which transgresses for village norms to make his case. Now, the ghosts of a deceased person usually appear to give warning or to solve an enigma, because there are some kind of those stories that they do have ghost characters. It is no doubt necromancy and ventriloquism are common in African literature. While it is a phenomenon in Western literature, it is a form of worship. In African literature, as the individuals must undergo some rituals while alive and funeral rites after they die for them to appear. In most African works, the appearance of a ghost is actually a sign of danger. Yes. For example, the ghost of Eminica, Hiuma's late husband, in The Concubine Who Dies appeared and asked her for food. It is seen in the chapter 6. That was a premonition of dark paroxysm. Although the elements of literature may differ between African literature and other literatures, there is still a huge pool of similarities. When an individual reads novels, plays, or poems from Africa and those of the world, he or she must be willing to look farther into the local color because therein lies the key to proper criticism and analysis. For people to start enjoying literature out there surrounding, they must be willing to assimilate the author's language and identify themselves with a character or two in the book. Now, there must be a cross-cultural connection too that will place the audience in the same locale with the author because language is so ambiguous that at times it tends to set ablaze the very fire it was trying to quench. Therefore, African literature is literature written by an African about Africa using common African characters, setting, and themes that are conveyed through the common African vehicle of proverbs. Because actually, African literature is very hard to define. Many scholars are actually trying to contribute what actually is the definition of African literature. And that would be all. Thank you.